Hi everybody and welcome to Teva Talks. I'm Teva, and today's book that we're going to be talking about is What I Talk About When I Talk About Running by Haruki Murakami. Haruki Murakami was born in January 12, 1949, following the post-World War II baby boom. He was born to son of a Buddhist monk and the daughter of a Osaka merchant, both of which taught Japanese literature, hence inspiring him to get into books at an early age. His father was also involved in the Second Sino-Japanese War, which took a toll on him mentally, and that trauma would also kind of trickle down to young Murakami himself. He would grow up and become very inspired by a lot of Western culture and society, and this influenced a lot of his writing, which kind of leads to him seeing himself as a black sheep within his own Japanese culture, since so many of his influences come from outside of it. What makes Murakami's works very interesting and regards him as one of the greatest living writers of our generation would be the fact that he likes to blend a lot of these tones and elements together which seem disparate in other people's writings, but with him it's to be expected. So you'll tend to see a lot of stories that are very surrealist, although the settings themselves will be very real and grounded in reality, with a lot of these like almost magical realism elements blending in together. And I would see like a lot of like Kafka influence in there, a lot of like Kurt Vonnegut, and writers even like Borges could have some influence. Murakami is a one-of-a-kind writer that we're glad to have. And fun fact, we actually share a birthday together, him and I. So as I turn 25 this year, he would go on to turn 75. So the reason I would like to focus on What I Talk About, which is a reference to a Raymond Carver novel, is the fact that this is a collection of personal essays that Murakami wrote over a period of a decade from the late 90s into the early 2000s. And it just takes us through his journey as both a writer and a runner, as he engages in a lot of marathons throughout the world internationally. This man has done a lot. He's even completed triathlons, and he talks very extensively about how fitness has shaped who he is as a person, as well as the goals he wants to achieve both in his writing ventures as well as outside of it. So he just kind of takes us along with the ride, and that's why this book is a very enjoyable read, because it plays very casually. It's as if he's standing there talking to you in his gentle demeanor and just allowing himself to speak to a friend or loved one. And what's really nice about this book is it doesn't overstay its welcome. It's very short. I would say, let me see, it's about 200 pages long. You could read this easily within a week. I like to savor it, and I spent 2 months reading it, so I kind of sipped it in intervals like a fine wine or brandy. And it was just a very nice insight into who this guy was, as I still have many of his books that I want to read, but I haven't read too many yet. The only other being a couple short stories and The Wind-Up Bird Chronicle, which was one of his first novels. The biggest takeaway I would say from this book comes actually at an earlier chapter when Murakami is describing his life as a former owner and manager of a jazz club. And during this time period, he would just work his ass off, didn't really have much free time, but in whatever free time he did, he tried to exercise, and that carried on through the remainder of his life into his life. And he would also say how people would judge him on his merit as that person. Before he even ran a jazz club, people were saying, well, you must be crazy, you're you, how can you run a jazz club? And then he just did it, and he was great at it. In fact, it was so good that he learned it was not the right thing for him. He wanted to be a writer. And the very same thing happened when he became a writer. People were telling him, no, how can you quit your job? You're not going to make any money from your writing. You're going to go broke. Nobody's going to know your name. And now we're here. So he likes to point that out as an early path in life where you can't really let anybody determine who you're going to be and who you can build yourself into. And although this isn't a self-help book, it's helpful to read to yourself if you're in any kind of situation where you think you might not be good enough, or you might not be able to get out of the pattern that you find yourself in, bad habits, that kind of thing. And he just kind of paves a way for himself in order to be who he really wanted to and do the things he really appreciated out of life. There's a lot of humbleness in the way he talks about things, as this is a guy who does several marathons and yet he never seems to truly brag about it. It almost bothers him that he can't hit goals that he had set in the past and landmarks that he falls short as he gets older with illnesses or just your body going down on you as you want through life. But he takes it in strides. He accepts how the only thing that really matters isn't beating your personal best. It's just being your best at that moment and doing what you can out of life. One of the best scenes I gotta say I found in this novel was when Murakami went by himself to do the original marathon in Greece, which is from Athens to the town of Marathon. And this was back in 1983. So it was a very long time ago, but he just recalls this memory so fondly despite how hot it was and how miserable things were, since he was the only person there besides a crew that had tracked him. And they're just following around in their car behind him and trying to encourage him, say like, way to go, you got this, you're almost finished. And he's just losing his damn mind because this is such a hard run. He's like, this, he's thinking all these things like, this is easy for you to say, and you should try this yourself. But he never says that. He's very stoic and just does the run and completes the entire thing. And he actually learns later, I believe, that he did more than he needed to, since he had gone down a different path which led to another mile. So he did the original marathon by himself and then some. That's about it for today. Hope you guys are doing well, and I'll catch you in the next video.